Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Who Would Win video. And we've got quite the doozy for you, ladies and gentlemen. What happens when you find genocidal maniacs who want to control or just destroy everything, who want to go searching throughout the whole of the universe for powerful gems so that they can control all of reality? You get characters such as the Mad Titan, Thanos, and the power-hungry, power-controlling mind manipulator that is Enerjak. For very specific reasons, we are using the main timeline version of these characters, that is Earth 616 Thanos from the Infinity War Saga comics of the 90s, and Prime Universe Enerjak from the Archie comics. We will not be using his previous iterations or his alternate counterpart from the alternate universe, Dark Enerjak, but we can use them as comparisons for his power. And just so everyone is clear, no, just because we're using 616 Thanos does not mean we are using Thanos from the MCU. That is a completely different set of universe. I'm sick of people saying they're the same thing or are close enough. No, they're not. There's a difference between comic books and cinematic universes. Now that we've got that clear, I'm once again joined by Cobalt.
Yo. What's up? I can't seem to stay off this Brits channel.
This is why British people are better. All jokes aside, let's see what happens when the collector of the Infinity Stones meets the controller of the Chaos Emeralds and the Chaos Force. Thanos versus Enerjak. Let's answer the question of who would win. Getting straight into it, the first category, as always, is strength. In terms of physical strength, Thanos is comparable to characters like Thor and Hulk at the time. And at the time, Hulk was strong enough to destroy planets very easily, and could even at high end be able to lift or hold stars in his hand. And Thanos was fighting on par with Hulk very easily and even knocking him out, especially with the full power of the Infinity Stones. So, bare minimum, Thanos is like a planetary level threat, being able to destroy or obliterate planets, or possibly being able to even lift planets with his brute strength alone. And could even go as high as maybe star level given certain feats and factors. So, Mega, what level of strength does Enerjak possess?
Let's see. He seems to be a lot greater than Knuckles, who he actually possessed at the time, who has already, destroyed a universe while fighting Supersonic. Back in the comic issue, Supersonic versus Hyper Knuckles, which I'm still confused on the Hyper Knuckles part. Which would possibly put him as, multiversal, at least when it goes up to, Supersonic. Because it seems like he could handle his own against Supersonic, even though Supersonic was, invulnerable.
And given certain feats, scalings, and factors, we could scale Supersonic, at least in the comic books, to being technically stronger than his video game counterparts. As well, we've known for years, at least at the time when the Archie comics was still relevant, the comic book version of Sonic is supposed to be stronger than his video game version. And seeing how this comic book timeline of the war against Enerjak happened roughly 2010-ish, that would mean this all takes place just before the events of Sonic Generations. And in terms of the video game Sonic, at that point in time, he would definitely be comparably hyperversal, given the fact he should be stronger than he was in 06, who was the major powerhouse fighting against Solaris, who at high levels of calculations could get to hyperversal. And since Sonic has been on quite a few adventures between 06 up until Colors, he would definitely be a lot stronger. And if comic book Sonic is supposed to be stronger than his video game counterpart, at bare minimum with knowing these calculations, he can get as high as, well, high hyperversal, to possibly even beyond those levels of power, especially if he dives into his more powerful forms, such as Ultrasonic, which, funny enough, Sonic never used against Enerjak. I guess he just knew he didn't need it. Or didn't want to give Enerjak any ideas of using the Super Emeralds. Come to think of it, that actually is the smartest thing Sonic did. It's like, he probably knew he had a form that could easily beat him, but he was like, yeah, I don't want to give away the information to the guy who can control the Chaos Emeralds like they're playthings. So on a very low end, Enerjak has a strength of universal plus level. On a mid-range, we have multiversal level, and at high range, you can get him to hyperversal, which, yeah, makes him a lot stronger than Thanos. So, unfortunately, yeah, this goes to Enerjak. Sorry, Thanos. Alright, next category is speed. Let's see how fast these two are in comparison, which honestly I don't think should be a comparison. We're comparing a Sonic character to a Marvel character. Who's really going to be faster? But to give Thanos his fair dues, he is fast enough to not only track but be able to tag fast characters like Silver Surfer, who in many comic books, even prior before the Infinity War saga, was stated to be able to travel galaxies and even travel beyond the edge of the universe in a matter of minutes, meaning he's millions of times faster than light. And the fact that Thanos can not only track his movements and be able to hit him means Thanos is really fast, surprisingly, for someone of his, well, stature. You think he would be slightly slow like Hulk, but nope. He is shockingly fast. But how does that compare to Enerjak?
Well, keep in mind, in Knuckles, granted, he's not as fast as Sonic, but he has been able to keep up with Sonic. Like, even back in the Super Sonic vs. Hyper Knuckles comic, they were still going at each other on great speed before the crash ended up, like, destroying the Special Zone. And even as Enerjak, he was able to at least keep up with Sonic. So his speed will at least be incalculable, if I'm saying that word right.
Incalculable? I bet you're thinking, wait, how is Sonic incalculable? Really? You're gonna ask that? After what we said the last time about his video game version, you're really gonna question that? But just to give a somewhat understanding of how fast Super Sonic would be at the time, previous comics go again being classic Sonic. Good lord, we keep using the younger version of Sonic to show just how much better his older version is. Sarcastic quip aside, Sonic, during the Night of a Thousand Sonics comic book, traveled thousands of universes in the span of a single night, meaning he probably did it in the span of maybe 6 hours at best. Thousands of universes in the span of 6 hours, and Sonic doesn't seem to be tired at all, and the fact that thousands of other Sonics are following him at the exact same speed pretty much shows that classic Sonic at the time was moving ridiculously fast. To be able to travel through different universes, yeah, there's no actual way to calculate how fast you would need to be. Like, it's near impossible to figure that out. So even as his classic self, he has near incalculable speeds. And in his modern version, just, well, gets a lot better. He has literally been able to move when time is stopped or even slowed down. He has literally moved in a place where time does not exist. Not to mention, other people can't seem to make him slow down. Even powerful characters like Silver, who has been able to master his psychokinetic abilities and has stopped many great things, struggles to, well, keep Sonic in his place, which is, well, shocking. The guy who can literally stop, like, meteorites and world-ending events with his psychic powers can't stop one hedgehog from running. Well, if that's not a big pile of irony. So since Sonic has near incalculable speeds to basically being incalculable altogether, and since Enerjak was keeping up with him, even though Sonic seemed to have the slight edge in terms of speed, which isn't surprising, it's Sonic, he's always going to have the edge of speed. We can say that Enerjak is roughly near incalculable himself, seeing how he's keeping up with Sonic, and he possessed Knuckles, who kept up with Sonic in the past as well, who classic Sonic has near incalculable speed feats as well. So yeah, there's no real argument. So we have someone who can have calculated speed versus someone whose speed can't be calculated. Yeah, I think we can agree Enerjak wins again, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if Thanos can make up with this. Fighting skills. His fighting skills are on par with people like Thor, who is a warrior god of the Norse pantheon and has thousands of years of combat experience, which makes Thor a very incredible fighter, which makes sense. He's part of literally a warrior-like people. The Asgardians, or the Norse gods in general, are all warriors. They love fighting, especially Thor. So for Thanos to be able to go toe-to-toe with someone who's been a warrior for thousands of years means he's incredibly skilled. So how does that compare to Enerjak?
Well, the thing is with Knuckles, from my understanding, he only has like one fighting style, which is like basically boxing, which is still pretty good because he's able to like knock Sonic's block off and even keep up with Shadow. And not to mention, he is able to fight against Metal Sonic, even as Metal Sonic's Kai form.
And this is the same Metal Sonic who, in his video game version, might have knowledge of all fighting styles on Earth, so I think it's safe to assume that his comic book version definitely does. So he's fought against a robot who has knowledge of all fighting styles, a powerful ultimate life form who uses almost nothing but martial arts when he's not spamming chaos spears, and has fought against a super fast hedgehog who loves using his speed as an advantage of his fighting style. Good lord, for someone who's limited to just punching, he's quite skilled. Who, with given certain statements and looking into how the lore seems to work, it implies Enerjak is like this ancient entity.
Yeah, he's like Knuckles' great ancestor that got overcharged with over like hundreds of Chaos Emeralds.
So, with him being an ancient entity, he would have knowledge of a lot of fighting skills because, well, the Echidnas are both scientists and warriors, and he's literally taken over a warrior-like person who has battled other equally skilled warriors, even literally the greatest warrior on the entirety of the universe, Sonic the Hedgehog. So, who really is better off in terms of fighting skills? Do we say this is a tie?
Maybe? I'd probably say at least, because both of them has big feats when it comes to the fighting skills.
Yeah, I guess, surprisingly, this is probably the only tie of the fight. They're both pretty equal in terms of fighting skills. Alright, then moving on from that, durability and armor. Thanos has a very light type of armor. I'm not sure what it's made of, but it seems to be pretty durable, seeming like it could survive blows from, well, heavy hitters like Hulk, Thor with the power of Mjolnir, and Mjolnir's been able to crack planets, and the fact that it barely even damages Thanos' suit / armor, whatever the hell he technically wears, proves not only Thanos is durable, but, you know, his suit that he wears is very durable as well. And during the Infinity War saga, he's literally being tagged and attacked by every single heavy hitter of the Avengers, including, but not limited to, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Spider-Man, Star Fox, Mephisto ends up somewhat fighting him, Cyclops, and even Scarlet Witch. Like, what in the hell was he made of? Which in some ways makes sense. It was stated that with all 6 of the Infinity Stones, he was practically invulnerable. Without it, I think he is sustainable to damage, which we can actually kind of see in certain fights where he doesn't have the Infinity Stones, and, well, again, heavy hitters like Thor and Hulk have been able to knock him down. So, without the Infinity Stones, he is pretty durable, but eventually he can be hurt. But with the Infinity Stones, he seems to be, well, near invulnerable. He's not completely invincible, mind you, because, well, he was technically defeated by the Avengers. Again, technically, we'll explain what happens later. So how does that compare to Enerjak? How durable is he, and what kind of armor is he sporting?
Well, funny enough, his armor is actually kind of completely made of chaos energy. We will assume it is, because it only pops up when someone's possessed of the great ancient chaos energy. Like, the armor appeared up out of nowhere on, like, his ancestor, the original Enerjak, and also popped up out of nowhere on him when he possessed the energy. It also popped up on his daughter, which I can't remember her name top of my head, after they defeated the Dark Enerjak, and she had obtained the power. So it's safe to say that it's completely made of chaos energy, which would probably make it pretty durable, since it didn't act like it got scratched from Sonic fought him. At most, he only lost his helmet, and that's only due to Sonic knocking it off.
So we could say, based on the fact that it's made of pure chaos energy, it's practically indestructible?
Possibly.
And also could possibly self-regenerate?
Also possible.
Alright, sounds like he technically slightly has better armor than Thanos, but what about his durability with even, like, excluding the armor?
Thing is, we never really see him without it. Unless you go on with Knuckles before he became Enerjak. Knuckles was pretty durable, even when he was teleported outside of no time and space exists, along with Sonic by Mammoth Mongol, and he was able to outlast him around that time.
We can safely assume that when Enerjak takes over Knuckles, he increases, well, every stat, including durability.
Safe to assume.
So we have someone who has practically indestructible armor, with possible multiversal plus level durability, seeing how he's fought against universal to multiversal level beings like Supersonic and Mammoth Mongol. So even if you knock off his near indestructible armor, you got someone who can tank universal level attacks straight to his body and be completely fine. Good lord, Enerjak is tough. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Enerjak definitely is more durable.
At least close to it, because it had to take another Chaos being to even keep up with him.
Sure, I can see some people making arguments like, oh, but Thanos was being beaten up by like a lot of characters. Enerjak was only fighting one. Doesn't that mean he's technically weaker? No, not really, because at the time Thor and Hulk were not that strong in comparison to Sonic. At best, you can get Thor to maybe solar system level if you're being generous, and Hulk was like at best star level. There weren't really any characters that were that strong in comparison. Sonic is like a multiversal to hyperversal level being. It's literally night and day in comparison of the people they are facing at the time. So there's no real argument. If it was like the strongest versions of Thor and Hulk, okay, that's a different argument. But it's not. It's Thor and Hulk at that time, specifically in the Infinity Saga.
I guess to give it an idea of how strong Sonic is that, well, given the fact that Dark Enerjak, I know this is not the same Enerjak, but this is Dark Enerjak from the Dark Mobius, has completely overpowered their version of Sonic and completely almost destroyed everything. Up until Silvo came there and fought him by using his own power against him. And this is the same Silvo that Prime Sonic has fought and it can handle just fine.
So yeah, it seems like in almost every universe, even in alternate reality, Enerjak is a powerful being, but is still nothing compared to Prime Sonic. But anyway, moving on. Looking at the powers and abilities, Thanos has a lot. He has super strength, obvious, super speed, he can teleport using the Space Stone, he can warp reality with the Reality Stone, he can either control or steal a soul with the Soul Stone, he can manipulate a mind with the Mind Stone, pretty obvious. He can manipulate time with the Time Stone, but not to an incredibly big degree. It's more like he just can either fast forward time, reverse it, or straight up like pause time. He can't travel through time, as much as that would be a cool ability to show off. He also can use energy beams with the Power Stone, which also increases his strength. He naturally has laser eyes, and with the power of all 6 Infinity Stones, he can snap his fingers and wipe out the whole universe if he chose to, which is pretty impressive. But how does Enerjak stack? What kind of abilities does he have in his pockets?
Well, given that he's already formed by Chaos Energy, he has strong connections with the Chaos Force, which also a hint of big magic. He already has super strength as Knuckles, which probably increases as his Enerjak self. And again, we talked about how he was able to keep up with Supersonic, even as Hyper Knuckles. Then we get to the more crazier stuff. He can control elements as well, but he also has like molecules manipulation. One of the Kindercran, I can't remember the name, I think they're called the Dark Legion. They had this habit of cutting off their own limbs and replacing it with tech, because he was part of this clan that believed tech is part of the future of the clan. It's a whole complicated thing with politics of Kennas. I'm not going to get into that.
Kind of reminds me of the Cyberlink Way initiative in Mortal Kombat.
He ended up completely erasing their cybernetic parts that they used to replace the original limbs and turn it back into the original limbs. Like they never cut it off.
Well, shit.
And what else? Getting that stuff. Oh yeah, he can teleport himself and teleport other people. One time he has flat out teleported Sonic underground because he thought that would deal with him.
He thought he could teleport a burrowing animal in the ground and it would do something. Why do supervillains do stupid shit?
Yeah, even Sonic himself thought that was stupid. He also can manipulate time, because Chaos Knuckles has went back in time to fix his ancestry, but every time he does, it kind of screws things up.
Not to mention the Chaos Emeralds have been known through almost every source material, at least the source material where they exist, to be able to manipulate time on a fundamental level and even allow people to travel through time and even travel through other dimensions.
He also seems to have, at least, I'm not sure this is going to be for Prime Enerjak, but at least for Dark Enerjak. So I'm just going to throw this on the table. I believe Enerjak could do this too. That he was able to control the souls of the Freedom Fighters.
Well, let's see. Dark Enerjak seems like he's the strongest one, seeing how he killed almost every hero in his universe, but then he gets beaten by Silver, who goes to the Prime universe, can't beat Prime Sonic of that universe, who beat another Enerjak. So if that Prime Sonic's stronger than the Sonic that Dark Enerjak killed, doesn't that mean by comparison, technically speaking, Prime Enerjak is more powerful than his Dark version?
Should be.
So it seeing how he's more powerful, it's safe to assume he has the same abilities, which would include either soul control or at the very least mind control.
At least this is our best guess.
So how do these compare to each other? The only thing I could see Thanos having a slight edge over Enerjak with is the reality manipulation. The fact that it's never fully explained how it works. It's kind of like either A, it creates like an illusion, or B, it kind of warps certain objects in people's reality to the whim of Thanos or the wielder itself. Such as, well, he used the reality stone to turn Thor into stone, which didn't last forever, but the fact that he could turn a human being into complete stone shows some level of reality manipulation. That could be a somewhat of a problem, but then again, with the fact that Enerjak manipulate molecules in such a masterful way to where it makes it seem like he's a freaking wizard. Like literally, he revived non-existent fleshy limbs to half mechanical people. How in the fuck did he do that? So yeah, it might cause a small issue, but Enerjak's control over molecules basically gives him reality manipulation. Not to mention the Chaos Emeralds kind of already do that as well. So there's not really anything Thanos actually has that's actually an advantage. I mean, think about it. Teleportation doesn't matter. Enerjak can teleport as well. Time pausing, Enerjak has greater control over time and can even dimension hop. Mind control, he already does that. The soul control, arguably he can do that too. Oh, what about like the Power Stone? Really? You're gonna think the Power Stone is comparable to a Chaos Emerald and what powers that shit has? Seriously, there's not a single stone in the entirety of the Infinity Gauntlet that's comparable to all the abilities not only the Chaos Emeralds can do by themselves, but the abilities Enerjak already possesses. Not to mention, there's a huge flaw with the Infinity Stones, which Enerjak could exploit. If he teleports him and Thanos to a completely different universe to where the Infinity Stones are not from, they won't work. Yeah, that's a major flaw that is canon to every version of the Infinity Stones in every version of Marvel Comics. No joke, in every version of Marvel Comics, the Infinity Stones do not work outside of the universe they come from. This is explained in one comic book where Reed Richards explains that's how it works because two other Reed Richards from alternate universes also have a complete Infinity Gauntlet, and they all go to a completely separate universe where their gauntlets don't work. They're just shiny gloves. They all look like weird Michael Jacksons.
Well, the Chaos Emeralds on the other hand shown they can work outside their own universe. For one thing, they're already inside a pocket dimension universe where you gotta go find them. And on top of that, they were teleported into the Mega Man universe, and they worked just fine there.
I mean, hell, the Chaos Emeralds allow people to travel between completely different planes of existence altogether that aren't even closely connected to the world of Archie. Want an example? Yeah, they somehow allowed characters like Sonic to end up in the world of Image Comics, which allowed them to meet Spawn. You know, someone with completely different sets of powers. The Chaos Emeralds worked in his world and allowed someone to go to his world. As if to say that it doesn't matter what universal laws other universes have, these emeralds can go as they please. Which, yeah, kind of tells you that the Chaos Emeralds are busted in terms of like how they work. And if you think they're busted, the Super Emeralds are even more busted. As far as we're aware, there's only one of them?
Yeah, keep in mind, even now the new comics with the recent crossover, Well, now even Darkseid said they contain the ultimate power.
And that's in the IDWs, which is a completely separate continuity to Archie. So I think it's safe to assume, not only does Enerjak have a counter for every ability Thanos has, but all of his abilities are just greater. So powers and abilities once again goes to Enerjak.
Yep.
Weapons doesn't fully matter, but we already basically said the Infinity Gauntlet is rendered useless when brought into a different universe. All it becomes is just a very shiny glove for Thanos to punch people with. Whereas Enerjak has a magical staff made out of pure chaos energy.
Yeah, but you could use it just fine. You could use chaos energy just fine without it, though I think the staff kind of helps him direct it a little bit better. That's which why Sonic took it and broke it. But keep in mind, it took a chaos being to fucking broke something that's made from chaos energy.
So only a being of chaos can break something else made of chaos. Meaning Thanos could never break anything made of chaos that Enerjak is holding.
Possibly.
Well then, so now we get into the weaknesses. We already basically told you that Infinity Stones are rendered useless outside the universe, but there's a bigger weakness Thanos has. He can't stand being alone. Yeah, I know you're thinking, wait, what does that mean? Apparently, and unless there's some poor misinformation out there, the way the main timeline Thanos of Earth 616 of the Infinity War saga, the way he died or was defeated, is that he ended up in a universe where nothing existed, he was by himself, and because he was so alone, he saw no alternative but to end his life. Well then!
Hello darkness, my old friend.
So how does that compare to Enerjak? What is his main weakness?
Well, Enerjak still has Knuckles' brain, even though it's been mostly possessed. So he still has Knuckles' temper, and again, Knuckles is not the brightest bunch, so he does make mistakes.
Now, here's the major problem. Sure, Thanos could anger Enerjak and get the better of his temper, but realistically, how angry is he gonna get Enerjak when Enerjak in every way is far stronger? In fact, if you think about it, throughout the entire fight, Enerjak is just gonna be laughing his ass off of how easy the fight is. He's gonna be so overconfident and just enjoying himself. Whereas Thanos, both of his weaknesses can be exploited here. Weakness 1. If the Infinity Stones are taken out of the universe, which we again said Enerjak can do, he can teleport himself and other people to other universes. Infinity Stones would be rendered useless. And guess what? If Enerjak just decides to leave Thanos in a world where nothing existed, say maybe like the Null Void from the comic books, yeah, Thanos will just, well, kill himself and Enerjak will win automatically. So technically speaking, if Enerjak learns of this mental weakness of Thanos, he could just win the fight without doing anything. He could just send him to a world where nothing exists and just wait for him to kill himself.
Kind of a dark way to think about it, but yeah.
So, how do these two scale? Without the Infinity Stones, Thanos gets like planetary level plus scaling. With them, he has universal plus scaling, given the fact that, well, even though he only wiped out half of the universe, it's stated he could have destroyed all of the universe, and the Marvel universe, at least the one he resides in, is infinite in size, so he can destroy an infinite construct, giving him, well, universal level scaling to possibly 4D level scaling if we're being generous. Compare that to Enerjak. Yeah, here's the thing, on a low end, Enerjak is universal plus level. So his low end matches Thanos' high end. His average power is like multiversal plus, and his high end is hyperversal. Yeah, I don't think there's much of a comparison here, do you?
Yeah, no, like, again, like, even when we lowball Enerjak extremely, we still got the problem of the Infinity Stones not working outside of their own universe.
Even if Enerjak was to stay in the Marvel universe to fight Thanos, who's to say technically they would work on him? Like, who's to say Thanos decides to snap his fingers to erase Enerjak and it actually works? What are the chances of that happening?
It's very hard to say.
I mean, again, the chaos levels seem to have their own rules to where they can override the rules of other universes. And seeing how the Infinity Stones, yes, do rule and have control over the universe they reside in, seeing how Enerjak is a being of pure chaos energy, I think that pretty much means that even if Thanos does try to snap his fingers to erase Enerjak, I think the chances of it actually working are slim.
The part is like, Enerjak is already around God level around this time, so it's quite possible he might just regenerate with the chaos energy. That's pretty hard to say how Chaos Force works.
Well, I can actually give a quick comparison. Thanos has used the Infinity Gauntlets to fight some powerful individuals, but there are some individuals he has never 100% beaten, even with the stones. And one of these people is Galactus, a being that is literally made of the power cosmic, which is arguably the most powerfulest power source in the Marvel multiverse. The power cosmic has a lot of abilities that are actually very similar, if not exactly the same, as the Chaos Force in, well, not just the Archie comics, but in the Sonic multiverse. Like, no joke, they almost the exact same abilities, and people who use these powers can do some pretty crazy shit. And Galactus has literally reset universes with this power. Sound familiar? Exactly like how Sonic reset a universe / multiverse with the power of chaos. And seeing how Galactus has beaten Thanos even with all 6 Infinity Stones, using the full, unbridled, unfiltered power of Cosmic, I think it's safe to say that a power source that's technically superior to the Infinity Stones basically, well, overpower them. Ironic, the stones that could destroy an entire universe can be overpowered by another power source.
And we feel like there's 6 of them and 7 of the Chaos Emeralds.
Well, funny enough, technically speaking, thousands of them, given one of the comic books.
Yeah, though there was a dude until like that's kind of been retconned due to the reason I'm not going to go into in this video. Oh, I have a question though. Why is the 6 Infinity Stones are scared of the 7 Chaos Emeralds?
Cause 7, 8, 9.
Nah, you read my mind.
And I didn't even need a Mind Stone to do it. So, unfortunately, Marvel fans, and I am sorry for this, but in a battle between Thanos from the 616 continuity and Prime Universe Archie Comics Enerjak, the Mad Titan unfortunately meets his end to the Master of Chaos, the mind manipulator of the Echidnas, the most ancient problem in the history of Sonic, and one of the biggest villains Sonic has ever faced in his, well, entire career, other than Mammoth Mongol. The winner of this fight, and the answer to the question who would win, is Enerjak.
Oh yeah, put a little more energy to that. And the winner is Enerjak.
Well, guys, thank you all for joining in this video. Hopefully, you're all entertained by this one. Information about Thanos was provided by a really helpful Marvel fan by the name of Rose from the Marvel Discord server, which I will have links in the description below too, so you can read up about it and find out where the information was gotten. And if you want to see the documentation where we put down all this information, there will be a viewable link also in the description. If you guys got any suggestions for battles, and I mean big ones that will take quite an extensive time to do, let us know in the comments below. So, Cobalt, what do you have plans in the works that people need to look out for?
Mostly I'm planning to do some comic dubs and still planning to dub the Archie series, though right now my work's a bit of a standstill due to a lot of issues.
Well, you heard it, folks. Give this man some support. He needs some help. Do it! Do it! You all know what you need to do, guys. We go through this every time. If you like this video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to join the Hedgehog Singing Nation today, click the notification gong so you never miss a thing that I do. All links will be in the description below. And make sure you subscribe to Cobalt's channel. Again, link in the description. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. And once again, the winner of this fight is the Chaos Master, Enerjak. Stay awesome, guys. And as always, a Dragon Fist. Hiya.
It doesn't matter now what happens. I will never give up. try.